We continue with module number 1. We continue with the economics of money. But this time, we are stepping into our second learning goal, the one that I call the 5 forms of spending: needs, wants, necessities, comforts, and luxuries. People have both needs and wants. We must get down to understanding the essential distinction between the two of them. And to do that, let me ask you 4 simple questions. Question number 1: is there a distinction between eating in a mid-end restaurant and eating in a 5-star hotel? If you said yes, my next question to you, continuing with that first question, is what is the distinction? You would possibly say that eating in a mid-quality restaurant is a need, something that is essential, whereas dining in a high-end 5-star hotel is a want, a desire. If you said that, you're right. Let me ask you the next question. Is there a difference between wearing a shirt and wearing a shirt stitched by one of India's top tailors, Syed Bokar? If you said yes, my follow-up question is, what is the distinction? If you say that wearing a shirt is a need, after all, you've got to be dressed, and wearing a shirt stitched by Syed Bokar is a want, a desire that you harbor, then you are right. Every spending can either be a need or can be a want. Let me ask you my third question. Is there a distinction between using a smartphone and using an iPhone? If you said yes, the natural follow-up question, which you might now know, is what is the distinction? Suppose you said a smartphone is a need. In 21st century India, you definitely need a smartphone to communicate with people. And if you said the expensive iPhone is a want, a status symbol, a desire that you harbor, then you are absolutely bang on. I'll now put out my fourth and last question. Is there a difference between holidaying in Ooty and holidaying in Mauritius? If you said yes, there is a distinction. And when I ask you what is that distinction, and if you say holidaying in Ooty, an annual holidaying in Ooty is a need, a break from the monotonous humdrums of life, and holidaying at Mauritius is a want, a desire, then you're absolutely right. Every piece of spending, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is either a need or a want. A need is something that you require for sustenance. A need is something over which you have absolutely no choice. Whereas when it comes to wants, there are options. You can choose to have them or you can choose not to have them. Food, clothing, shelter, transport, communication, education are all needs. A lovely home, myriad electronic gadgets, lots of time-saving home appliances, centrally air-conditioned house, these are all wants. Our needs and wants change with time. When you're in college, an iPhone is definitely a want. But as you get into employment and grow up the corporate ladder, an iPhone becomes a need. When you're in college, a MacBook Pro can be a want. But when you step into corporate India and start going up the ladder, having a MacBook Pro can actually become a need. It's important that we distinguish between needs and wants, because we should not spend too much of money on wants at the expense of needs. When you start your life, like when you are in college, like when you are in the early phase of your career, what we call the just born professional, focus on needs, not on wants. Don't spend more than 10% of your income on wants. But as you progress with time, as you begin to earn more, as your basic needs are met, you can increasingly spend money over wants. I would now like to move ourselves into another segment of this learning goal. I want to talk to you about necessities, comforts, and luxuries. These are born from out of needs and wants and offer a slightly different framework. It is important to know which are necessities, which are comforts, which are luxuries, because you need to spend money without any great choice on necessities. You can possibly compromise a little bit on comforts, but until you have enough money, I think you should stay off luxuries. Let us begin with necessities. Necessities are things that you cannot do without. I think there are three types of necessities. One, necessities for life. Two, necessities for efficiency. And three, conventional necessities. Necessities for life are that which keep you going, such as food, clothing, shelter, transportation, communication, etc. Necessities for efficiency are those that make you work more efficiently. A car is a necessity for efficiency for a medical doctor. A motorcycle is a necessity for efficiency for a college-going student or for the just born professionals. The third is conventional necessities. These are necessities that come from force of habit or are items that are dictated by society. Thus, for example, whether you like it or don't like it, people spend extensively at the wedding of their son or daughter. People spend extensively at the reception of their own wedding. These are dictated by force of habit. These are dictated by what we think society requires. This represents conventional necessities. Comforts are the next leg. Comforts are that which make life more enjoyable because it makes life more comfortable. A well-appointed home, an air conditioner in the bedroom. These are examples of comforts. The third and last is luxuries. Luxuries are not dictated by the needs of times. Luxuries are not that which make life that much more comfortable. Luxuries are things that represent higher strata of spending. They are also oftentimes dictated by society. Thus, having a swanky car, a BMW, or buying expensive diamonds are examples of luxuries. Lest I not be mistaken, let me tell you that the classification between necessities, comforts, and luxuries is not watertight. It can change from percent to percent. It can change from time to time. Back in 1996, when the mobiles first came, they were considered, and rightly so, as luxuries. As time passed, as mankind increasingly began to wed the smartphone, these became comforts. And today, in the 2020s, smartphones are necessities. Almost everyone and their uncle, every single individual who is above 15 appears to be holding on to a mobile. Mobiles have ceased to be luxuries that they were in the 90s. They are very, very clearly necessities today. Let me give you another example. Let me go back to the story of Sam the barber. Now you want a haircut to be done. You have three choices. You can either go to the corner shop or the nice dukan, as people once upon a time used to say. Or you can go to Essentials, a chain of salons. Or you can go to the upmarket Tony and Guy. For most people, and definitely for a student, going to the corner shop for a haircut is a necessity. Checking it out as Essentials is a comfort. Getting it done at Tony and Guy is a luxury. I'm not sitting on judgment as to what is right, what is wrong. I'm only drawing your attention to the distinction amongst the three. Like I said earlier, when it comes to money, different people have different priorities. We now know what are needs and wants. We now know what are necessities, comforts, and luxuries. It is time that we moved on to our next learning goal. But before we do that, I want you to pick up that piece of paper, that pen, or the smart gadget that you're holding on to and perform this exercise right here, right now. Maybe you can take a couple of minutes. I'll wait for you until then. I want you to list out 10 items of expenses for a collegian, if you're a college goer, or for a just born professional, if you're in the early phase of your career. After you've listed out 10 items, I want you to classify them into needs and wants. And then I want you to classify them into necessities, comforts, and luxuries. If you have completed that exercise, then you now have a clear understanding of needs, of wants, of necessities, of comforts, and of luxuries. The first step towards managing money is to know under which category your expense falls. Before we move on to getting to know why you should pay your taxes and what is the difference between savings and investments, let me summarize what we have learned now. We have learned that needs are what you require for sustenance. Wants are what you desire to have. In the early phase of your career, it might be a good idea to restrict your spending to just 10% of your money when it comes to wants. We also said that there is no watertight compartmentalization amongst necessities, comforts, and luxuries. These three progressively take us to higher levels of happiness. In life, it's not just important to earn money, it's also important to be happy. And a lot of happiness does come about by spending money. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side of the module.